meeting to order. We will all stand with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
To the flag
of the United States of America,
to the republic,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Roll call.
Councilmember Brescher.
Here.
Councilmember Coyle.
Here.
Councilmember Deal.
Here.
Councilmember Gomez.
Here.
Councilmember Joshi.
Here.
Councilmember Patil.
Here.
Councilmember Freeman.
Here. Okay.
Adequate notice of this meeting, as required by the Open Public Meeting Act of 1975, has been provided by the special notice in the Home News Tribune on August 3rd, 2020, and posted in the Lobby Municipal Complex on that same date.
All right. The clerk can now read the ordinance.
Proposed ordinance submitted by initiative petition filed pursuant to NJSA 4069A-184 on June 8, 2020, to authorize the establishment of a community energy aggregate program that requires 100% regionally sourced renewables to have been introduced for first reading set forth by NJSA 40:69A-190 on July 20th, 2020, with a public hearing to be scheduled by the council on or before August 12th, 2020. And they open up to public.
Yeah, right now we open up to the public. You can tell me who's.
Charlie Cradaville.
Okay, Charlie Cradaville.
Yes, good evening, members of the council. Charlie Cradaville. I'm from New Brunswick. I'm with Food and Water Watch and Food and Water Action, and I want to thank all of you for your time and consideration on this ordinance. We strongly recommend its adoption and believe it'll be a good thing, not only for our planet, but also for the 100,000 residents of your community who will be able to, for the first time, benefit from the savings that result from bulk purchasing electricity, similar to what we've done here in my home city of New Brunswick. And I did appreciate all the great questions at the presentation last month, and I've had dialogue with a number of council members since then. I want to thank them for their really thoughtful questions and just address a couple of things real quick. The way the program works is that the consumers have an additional choice if implemented, where they can participate in this program. They can opt in or out at any time. For the folks who are opted in, it is not difficult to opt out. Anyone who can, use the U.S. mail is going to be able to return the opt-out card that comes with them should they want to. And it's also not difficult to do over the phone or via email. And again, I'd look to New Brunswick as a good example where folks are actually, saving money significantly. Here we're saving 14% on our first 600 kilowatt hours that each home uses, and 19% for additional usage above 600 kilowatt hours. And that's because our town took the lead and did this, implemented the program last July, and it's been working out very well. I know there also was a concern about access to assistance, for low-income families to be able to pay their energy bills, and we agree that that's a really important program that we would not want in any way to hinder or interrupt, and we're confident that in other towns where this has been implemented and with the state law and the folks who run those programs are all in agreement that that's not an impact of a CCA program. Access to the low-income energy assistance programs is regardless of who your energy supplier is. Anyone is eligible, and if you do change from one supplier to another, it does not interrupt or disrupt the assistance. So I did want to just address that and put that on the record. I spoke to a couple of consultants today about that, and we also were in touch with elected officials in other communities and other folks who have experience with this. So I wanted to assure you that we're confident that's not going to be an impact, and that those folks will be eligible to benefit from the program. Quite the opposite. They're not going to be harmed by it. They will be able to benefit from it. And I know there's a lot of ins and outs here, but I'm happy to address any questions that the council may have at this time.
We're still on public portion.
Yeah, or I could just
Yes, well, they can do them at the end, but I would prefer to have all the public speak, and then then the council will be able to speak afterwards, rather than a back and forth dialogue, sir.
That's fine. I just want to be clear. I'll make myself available if there are questions, and I can be helpful. By all means, I'll be on the call. And thank you for your time and considering and putting together this special meeting and hearing us out.
All the people. What is it?
Josephine P.
Josephine?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Name and address.
Hi, Edison Councilman. My name is Josephine Paredes, and I'm a resident at 255 Hannah Road. Yes, I would like it if we passed, approved, implemented what is called community choice aggregation in Edison. Choice aggregation is defined, as defined, allows local governments to purchase energy, electric power on behalf of their residents and businesses in their municipality. So that's what community choice aggregation means. And by purchasing an alternative supplier of electricity that gets its energy from green renewable resources, this is where we get to choose from renewable energy and the clean energy and solar power energy. We would still be using the same distribution utilities that are the power lines that you see lining the streets. They look like towers. They're the ones that hold the electric power lines. Those will stay the same. That's where we'll be distributed our electricity. Now we can, for example, PSE&G is our distributor. We would keep PSE&G, but we would find another supplier and purchase our energy from another supplier that contributes to the green grid. So that is electricity powered from renewable resources. And there are suppliers that exist in New Jersey for us to choose from. And I've done some research. Just to name a few, there is Choice Energy, Clean Choice Energy, NRG Energy, Green Mountain Energy, Viridian Energy. Yeah, just to name a few are some that I can say right now. But I can also make myself available to do the research.
Time. Thank you. Next. Thank you. Thank you very much. Next.
Esther Barkin.
Good job.
Esther. Yes. Esther Barkin?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Hi, Esther Barkin, 114 Dunham Avenue. I think you all know by now that I'm passionate about this issue and other environmental concerns. So I would reiterate my support for this initiative. I'm one of the petitioners. I think it's very important that Edison, as the 5th largest community in the state, be a leader in helping to get us off fossil fuels. Our air is not as clean as it needs to be for our health. We are in a very trafficked area with a lot of distribution centers, and I really think this is an important initiative. I see it as a win-win, and I hope the council votes favorably. Thank you.
John Sue.
Hi, thank you, council members. John Shu, 219 West Shirley Avenue. Just want to voice my support for community choice aggregation once again. I attended a meeting recently ran by Sustainable NJ, and they did a good presentation on what that means. I won't reiterate too much of that, but they had during the presentation, they had the business administrators from Montclair and Plainsboro talk about how they were very satisfied with the program. And recently, Highland Park passed this, and this is done in Princeton and many other towns in New Jersey as well. So it was great to see Edison follow suit and be one of the towns listed for this program. So thank you very much for your time, and yeah, hope you will support this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Andrew Comley.
Andrew Comley.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Great. My name is Andrew Comley, resident at 44 Walnut Street, Edison, New Jersey. And, I've go out, I pretty much usually use my e-bike for, transportation in Edison and also when I go to New Brunswick. And saves me a lot of money, but when I go out, I directly breathe in the air, and sometimes the air quality is really, really, really bad, and that should really, mean more, I think, a lot, being that I have previously lived in mainland China for 5 years. I was born in America, and I have a Quaker background, and, I went there, to learn Chinese, and, it actually smells worse here than in China. So I really support the Food and Water Watch's action, and I hope you guys support this, because we need cleaner air. And, it all starts with getting really this solar panel technology down, and you can't really get a technology down, get the bugs out of it if no one ever adopts it on a large scale, on a large scale. So, I definitely, would suggest I would suggest that you would support this Food and Water Watch action.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Paula Boos.
Paul.
Paula.
Paula. Paula? No Paula?
Oh, she hasn't unmuted herself yet.
Paula? For the third time.
Can you hear me now? This is not Paula.
Paula. Excuse me, sir. Is your name Paula or Paul?
My name is Keith Voos, the last person who used computer in my family, my wife, Paula, and that's the name that's coming up.
Okay, didn't it say your name? Because I didn't want to call you out of your names.
Right.
Just say your name and your address is fine.
Thank you. My name is Keith Voos. I live in North Brunswick. I am the chair of the Environmental Justice Committee of the Metuchen Edison NAACP branch. I spoke in favor of this measure when it was first came for discussion to the council, and I haven't changed my mind about it since then. I would like to elaborate just slightly on the remarks that S. Barkin made concerning health, the public health ramifications of this kind of thing. As we move in our culture and widely and locally, the cleaner, greener we can get in terms of energy sources for our homes and businesses and automobiles and every other kind of energy, the healthier we are going to get. There is a big public health aspect to this kind of a measure. And as stated last time and will state again tonight, the worst public health outcomes are often found in communities of color or low-income communities, which is why the NAACP is interested in this particular piece of action on the part of Edison. I would also like to say that responding to all the global warming that's coming down the pike and all the effects that's going to have on all of our lives, much of the expense of responding to those global warming phenomena is going to fall on state, county, and municipal budgets. So the sooner those government entities can start being proactive to do something to ameliorate the severity of those effects coming our way, it will save government entities money down the road, and that's coming out not too long. Some of you may still be in office in Edison when truly hopeless, and we've faced in New Jersey all that kind of thing. The weather events, all the rest of it, are happening now around us. It's not a future phenomenon. So proactively now move toward cleaner, greener energy is a saving venture for the future. Thank you so much for giving me the time to speak again. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
John Pointer.
John Pointer.
Good evening, Council. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, I am, along with your family, but it's good.
Yeah, sorry about that. Just stepping aside from the dinner table.
I'm sorry.
John Pointer, 40 Roosevelt Boulevard. Two questions in regards to the ordinance. The first one is there, like, for instance, with the whole Suez deal last year, the big component of that was the 40-year agreement. Is there any way to set like a limitation on the term that we would be able to enter into a contract with a prospective company that we would purchase from? That's the first question that I have. The second question is, and I don't have the exact part of the ordinance, but it made reference about percentages about like 50, 60, 70, 80% in terms of the amount of natural energy. Is that per the company that we would be buying it from, i.e., I think it's like the first year's 50% has to be from renewable sources from the company. Within 2 years, it's like 60%, 4 years, 70%, et cetera, et cetera. And I guess the last question I have is the purchasing in the same, is similar to like how we purchase our water, in the sense of we are responsible for purchasing X amount of, I guess in this instance, kilowatts per year, that we would, no matter what the demand is from the township, we would be obligated to have to purchase that amount? Those are my questions. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Those are three good questions. Anybody else want to speak? Anybody from the council want to particularly answer his questions before I go back to Charles Kravitel at the end? Anybody want to talk about these particular questions, or are we going to wait and let Charles answer those? Anybody want to say anything?
Council President, I just, the one issue, and I'll confirm while the meeting's going on, but Mr. Pointer asked how long the ordinance would remain in effect. I believe the way the state law is written is if an ordinance is adopted, if an initiated ordinance is adopted, it remains in effect for 4 years. I'm sorry, I don't have my video on. Would remain in effect for 4 years, and so that's what you would have. It can remain in effect forever, but you couldn't. The way the referendum law is set up is basically they don't want you to, if something gets voted in, whether it's through the council action or through a vote, that the next council couldn't immediately change it. You have to wait 4 years. I'll triple check that, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. So that would answer the how long it would remain in effect. As to the other issues, those are really would have to be addressed by an energy consultant who could help the township hopefully strike the best deal.
Well, another thing, Northgrave, what's the difference between the ordinance and the referendum?
The initiated ordinance is one that comes from the public and is brought to the council, initiated by the public and asked to react to it. A referendum would be if council had taken action, the public can question, asked to question that ordinance. If the council did not rescind the ordinance, then there would be the referendum would be on the ordinance. It would come up for a vote, at an election, whether a special election or general election. In this case, if council approves the ordinance, then there would be no need for an election. If council does not approve the ordinance or fails to take action this evening, then the ordinance would automatically go on the ballot in November, unless the committee of petitioners were, for whatever reason, highly unlikely, they were to withdraw it within 10 days of this evening.
All right, so the referendum would be on the November election, and it would be the actual people from Edison would be able to vote on the referendum.
Be able to, on the initiated ordinance, which is what is before council tonight. There's an ordinance for council tonight, and that would, if council does not act to approve it, then it would go on the agenda, not the agenda, it would go on the ballot in November. And if council approves it, then there would be no need to act in November. A referendum would be if you passed an ordinance tonight to make Route 20, or not Route 27, a Talmadge Road, assuming that's a township road, make it one way. Then, a group of citizens could gather and say, we think it should remain two-way. And and they would then challenge that ordinance, and that would be a referendum. That's a difference. The referendum challenge is what council has done. Initiative is something put before the council for council's consideration in the first instance, and then by the public in the second if council does not act in the first instance.
All right, I just wanted the public to know that if the council doesn't go through with the ordinance, they would have the opportunity themselves to vote on this particular ordinance during the November election. Is that what I'm telling? Is that what the public is to understand?
Yes, if you don't act tonight, if you either vote against the ordinance, or if all 7 members were to abstain, or 4 members were to abstain, leaving only 3, that wouldn't be enough to pass the ordinance. It wouldn't pass. And the way the statute reads is that if you do not pass it tonight, then the clerk is directed to put it, to send it to the county clerk for inclusion on the ballot in November.
Council President?
Yes.
While we have our council here, how many votes do we need to pass it? 4 votes, just a majority?
Yes, 4 councilmen.
And I know you mentioned that you're going to triple check the 4-year timeline. Can you have that answer before the end of the meeting?
Yeah, I plan on having it. I have the book open right in front of me now. I'm almost positive that's right, but yeah, and I'll have it hopefully by the end of the public hearing. And Mr. Cradiville is probably still on the line, and I'm sure he can, if he disagrees with me, he'll certainly share that with us.
Yes. All right, Mr. Poirier, are you satisfied? And we'll get the other couple of answers for you a little later down the line.
Council President, can I make a comment?
Oh, sorry.
Hello?
I just want to make a comment on the question that Mr. Poiner asked. And this is with reference to our attorney's clarification that this ordinance, if it passes tonight, will be intact for 4 years. Doesn't mean that opt-in and opt-out situation changes. That still continue to operate the way it is.
Absolutely. That's a good point. The ability to opt out of the aggregated energy purchase exists regardless of whether this council approves it or if it's voted on by the public in November. Every resident will still be able to opt out. So that's not affected by the 4 years. So yeah, I hope I didn't make that confusing, but thank you for clarifying.
Maybe I may have misspoke in what I meant by the contract. I understand about the 4-year turnaround in regards to the referendum. In comparison to, say, the Suez deal, one of the major components that residents were opposed of was the 40-year agreement between the township and the company itself. Is there any limitation that we have? For instance, Mr. I'm going to mispronounce his last name, I apologize, Mr. Kravitz. He had mentioned that New Brunswick has it, I believe it's like 17 months or 18 months where they have their contract there. I guess my question more was, is there a way to set like a maximum length of a contract deal with the private entity that the township can enter in so that we don't end up getting stuck for a long contract where maybe prices end up going down later on? That's more.
As I understand it, Mr. Pointer, and again, I won't hold myself out as an expert. You really probably need an energy consultant, but it's my understanding is that it's basically you go out in 1 year tranches. So you go out, you purchase the energy for X cents a kilowatt. That's your deal for a year. And then you can renegotiate the following year. And I also believe, but it's not my area, but I also believe that the opt-out is at any time. I don't think you have to opt for a year. I think you just opt in. If at any point you decide to opt out, you opt out.
Understood. I appreciate it.
Councilman Coyle, it was 3 years, not 4 years, excuse me, but I did find the section I was looking for. So it has to remain in effect for 3 years, and then council can revisit the issue after 3 years.
Thank you. Who else?
Thank you.
No one. You want Charlie?
You have a motion to close the public portion?
There's no one else on the line, so, Charlie, you want to answer two questions Mr. Pointer asked at the end?
Sure. I didn't quite catch those last two, but I think the accurate information was given about the first one with the contract typically being 1 to 2 years.
Yes. All right. Okay. Now, I have a motion to close the public portion.
Second.
Excuse me? Okay. All in favor? All right, we're good. Okay, now council.
Motion
yes,
approved.
I was going to, excuse me, sir. I was going to start with Councilman Brescher, and I guess each person that wants to speak about the ordinance. Is that all right to start with you, Councilman Brescher?
Yes. I mean, I'm pretty good. I made some phone calls today. There were some concerns that were brought up. And then talking to some other elected officials, I feel comfortable with this project here. So my questions have been answered.
All right, Councilmember Coyle.
Thank you, Council President. I think this is a great step forward, a green step forward. It's something we believed in for a long time to make sure that the residents of Edison get a chance to have an opportunity for aggregated electric. This is something the youth has pushed for a long time. This is something the residents have spoke about for the last 3 meetings. I received numerous emails in regards to this. We all know that in other towns it has been passed through referendum 2 to 1. It would make no sense to not support those who push hard for green energy, renewable energy. It would only make sense for us to continue to move forward and pass this. I'm in full support. Thank you, Council President.
Councilmember Deal.
Thank you, Council President. We are moving in the right direction with this initiative. I support the initiative. I did have a couple concerns, and I spoke with Charlie earlier today. When you deal with utilities, when you deal with companies, sometimes it can be a confusing or frustrating experience. Anybody who's ever been on the phone with utilities or companies, it's confusing and it can be exhausting if there's no other word. So my concern, and Charlie, I know you answered this for me and I want to thank you, is that the idea of renewable energy and this initiative is a good idea and I support it. But I want to make sure that we're able to educate our community to something like an opt-out so they understand how to opt out or when to opt out or when they can opt out. If you've been dealing with a utility company or a company for 50, 60 years, like some of our residents have, they don't really know how the procedures are. So I am supporting the initiative tonight. I applaud Charlie and his group and all the people who spoke. Good job, we're moving in the right direction, but I don't want to leave people behind, especially our seniors, who again, I speak as a senior, that we have to make it kind of easy for them, or certainly understandable, so they understand that if they want to opt out, they can opt out. Charlie, I spoke with you earlier today about the customer service or assistance, and you provided a good answer. I want to make sure for our seniors, for the people who this would be a new experience for, that it's easy for them to understand, for them to opt out, and if they need assistance, that it's not a frustrating experience, as we've all gone through when you call a company or a utility. Sometimes you're on the phone, sometimes you're on the phone for, you can be on the phone on hold for hours. Now, I'm not saying this is going to be the case here. I'm not saying that at all, and I want to make that clear. But when we deal with companies and utilities, very often it's an exhausting, frustrating experience, and I want to make sure that we do what we need to do to make it easy and understandable for our citizens, our residents, and especially our seniors who are not used to this type of thing. So, Charlie, you did provide information to me. I think that it's important that if this initiative passes, and I believe it will tonight, that we educate our public on what we are actually doing and how they can maneuver or navigate through it. Thank you, Council President.
All right, Councilmember Gomez.
Thank you, Council President. I think to the same tone of Councilman Deal, I personally have always been an advocate of green energy, clean energy. And I definitely think that we're moving in the right direction, but I also have a lot of reservations with it, and primarily is because of the amount of people that are aware of this happening. And as you can see on the line, we don't have a lot of people watching the council meeting. We don't have a lot of people that are aware of the program. And I think the most difficult part about it is making the financial decision on behalf of everybody. And in particular, I think the obstacles that you deal with the utility companies. And as Councilman Deal said, the senior population, it's not being aware of it. Will probably, there's going to be a sense of frustration somewhere. I don't think it's a perfect scenario by any means. There's definitely pros and cons. I know I have heard complaints about the company and the level of customer service, but I hope that those are things, that's part of doing business every day. My hope is that those things get corrected. I think in the whole scheme of things, the initiative is taking us in the right direction. We do want to move forward as a state, as a nation, towards green energy. But I think also we need to be conscious of who we're making the choice for. And we have to do our part to make sure that it doesn't end here, that we continue the process to make sure that everybody understands whether they want to be a part of this or they do not want to be a part of this. I hope that it turns out to be not only from a clean energy perspective, but also a financial benefit to many, as part of what some of the things that are being touted from the program. It's a challenge when it comes to that, when some of the people, call, I received a couple of phone calls today, and some of the people made the argument of, you're making a financial decision and you have to make it without me having a voice, right? And so it's become a you have to wait out whether you allow this to go for the voters to vote on it or whether we make the decision. And, that hasn't been easy. I've been going back and forth. But in the end, I do believe that going in that direction of clean energy is the right direction. And I would say that I will take a leap of faith that everything will work out and that we will have a program in place that it's a benefit to the residents and doesn't really become something that it becomes a negative experience. Because I think by it becoming a negative experience, we close many doors in any other initiatives that we would like to do going forward. So I will be supporting this, but I also ask that everybody makes the effort to make this a success and not make it difficult, primarily for a senior population, those that have limited access to the information on how to be able to be better educated on it. So by taking that leap of faith, I ask that we all make sure that we get the word out, we explain it, and we educate people. With that being said, I will be supporting this, and thank you for your time, and thank you to all those who have made this possible and have put all the effort in making this move forward. And let's hope that it's going to be a great thing for Edison. Thank you, Council President.
Councilman Joshi.
Thank you, Council President. Council President, I think that goes without saying that this is a very historical moment and vote that we're about to make, because it happens to be the second petitioned ordinance that was done in Edison in just 2 years. And I applaud everyone that put this together. It's very impressive. I did quite a bit of extensive amount of research in the last, since this came up, and especially in the more recent days and time. I'd reached out primarily to other municipalities, our neighboring municipalities, as well as up in Hudson County, other towns that have done this too, including county level directors. And I received quite a bit of information on it. Ultimately, when it came down to deciding where I'll be casting my vote, I factored in a number of things. The first thing that I have a concern with is that the customer service, I'm told, obviously with many companies, as Councilman Deal and my other colleague, Councilman Gomez, has also said, customer service is something that I'm definitely concerned about. And I think that part of the reason why customer service in these types of programs, although, keep in mind, we haven't selected a specific company that we're going to be using, it's important to remember that there's such a limited amount of them. And I think part of the problem is that as the world and as the US, especially Edison, starts moving in the direction of green energy, we need to remember that we're going to have to make these decisions. Like, we have to acknowledge the fact that in order to do the right thing, that we have to take a step forward and acknowledge the fact that there may be a little bit of a hurdle along the way. But nevertheless, it's important to also remember that when we go through this process, as my colleagues have said, if you don't feel comfortable with this and you don't want this program, yes, there is an opt-out component to it, and getting that message across should be well known, because we shouldn't have residents feeling like they're automatically locked into something permanently, which is not the case. And lastly, as I look over this overall, it just came down to the fact that what kind of moral compass do we want to have? Like, where are we going as a town? Yes, there are flaws to this, primarily with customer service, as I said. However, I firmly believe that the pursuit of perfection should not stop any progress. And this is a step in the right direction. This is progress. This is a very progressive effort, and we being the 5th largest municipality in New Jersey, will be able to say that we did the right thing in terms of renewable energy, taking a step forward. So I will be proudly supporting this tonight.
Councilmember Patel.
Thank you, Council President. As I said the last council meeting, good job, Charlie and the team. This is an amazing effort to step in the right direction, getting the renewable energy in Edison Township. I'm in full support of it. I understand, a lot of people have reached out, some has a concern, some were asking for the support. But as we all know, this is opt-in and opt-out and opt-in program. As long as we do a good job in educating the people, I think we'll be fine. I also hear some concerns from my council colleague in terms of the enough information to the residents. But we 7 council members are the ambassadors. We are elected. So we should go out and educate our neighborhood, our friends, families, the communities. And this massive effort is going to make this program a great success. Again, I will be proudly supporting this. Again, thank you everyone who are involved in this.
Thank you very much. And I support this, but to me, at this particular time, I would like for the public to vote for a referendum, because I've seen sometimes, because the difference is cable and then there's streaming. Most of the people who have sent me emails, who have talked to me, between the ages of 20 and 45. This message is not getting out above that. So I would rather have them to vote themselves and get more information. I would like them, I know people could say that we are elected, we cannot get to the amount of people that's in this town. We just can't. But if we had infomercials and stuff step by step before the actual people in this town vote on a referendum, you can opt in, you can opt out. I'm going to tell you from my experience. I tried to opt out of something after I was opted in, called different people and stuff. I had to close out the whole charge card because they kept giving me stories of why they couldn't opt me out. So I've had bad experiences with opt-out. So therefore, I want to move this town forward. I think this energy aggregation and all that, I think that we are a progressive town, but I don't think that a limited amount of people should make the whole decision for the whole town. And as you know, a lot of people, some people that are in a different age group has auto pay. And as I know to today, some people, they still come down to the town hall and pay their taxes in person. They still come down to the town hall and they still pay their sewer bill. So as far as we have gone, we still have much further to go. And that's just from what I've experienced so far with that. And I know it's a good thing. I know all the young people now are switching to streaming. I know the older people are still old-fashioned. They still may have landlines, and they still may have the cable. But we're going to get there. But I have to think of the whole population. I just can't think of that group that grew up with all this, with all the things. I happen to be progressive, so I kind of know how computers and how landlines. Some people still have landlines, and there's also these phones that you can do just about anything on. But I just have to think about beyond the scope of the 20 to 45 people. I think of all of them. Thank you. At this time, nothing else to say, so we'll take a vote.
Council President, motion to approve the initiative.
Excuse me?
Second.
I make a motion to approve.
Second, Council President.
Councilmember Coyle.
I second that motion, Council President. Thank you.
And a roll call. Roll call.
Councilmember Bresser.
Yes.
Councilmember Coyle.
Yes.
Councilmember Deal.
You said yes.
Councilmember Gomez.
Yes.
Yes.
Councilmember Joshi.
Yes.
Councilmember Patil.
Yes.
Council President Chip Freeman.
I'm abstaining. I don't have enough information.
Okay. So, we have 5, so it passes.
Yes.
Council President, could I have the vote total on that, please?
5 yeses and 1 abstain.
It should be 6 yeses.
6.
Oh, I'm sorry, 6.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, you're right, 6.
Okay, thank you.
Council President,
Yes.
I just want to thank the council. I received several calls today, and I think it was really interesting. All of us were able to communicate throughout the day and this week to understand the variances of this opportunity. And there were times where there were situations where we felt there was an issue with opting in, opting out, and there were some favorable and vague opportunities. But I think moving forward, several people felt that it should be something approved. But what I'm getting at is it was nice to have this collective discussion among council people on this membership here. And I thought that was really good. And I want to thank my council colleagues for reaching out to discuss each item. And thank you for supporting this. Thank you, Council President.
Anyone else?
Council President?
Yes.
I know we said it, but just in case for the people that are tuning in right now, I'm reading the Facebook comments as well. I want to reiterate that this ordinance was a petitioned ordinance, so we wouldn't have the ability to make an amendment to it. Because a lot of people have said that, why not have an opt-in program rather than opt-out? That's the way that it was written, and we don't have the ability to change that. And I think that's the reason why Councilman Deal as well as Gomez, we all express this concern, but you do have the ability to opt out into it if you don't like it. And so it was given to us as is. I just wanted to stress that.
And Council President, with that conversation, what I was understood is that each resident is going to receive an application. There'll be a postcard attachment if they choose to opt out. It'll be a simple postcard to fill out. And I also want to share my council colleague, Bob Deal, the measurements he said about education and the public being more understanding. I think it would be great if the council supports something on our website for questions on this, choosing to opt out and instructions to do so, or anyone to call from the clerk's office or the mayor's office. Thank you, Council President.
Okay, I think that not just something on the workshop, I think it should be like a commercial, an infomercial, showing people step by step what you need to do so they can look at it, because as you know, we have a lot of different languages within our town itself, and I just think you should have a visual for people. That's the education in me. I think you should have a visual. You should show the people up there on there what can they do and kind of information they need.
Council President, you are right on with that description of what needs to be done. Communication with this is key at this point. A lot of people are not aware of what's going on or what to do. Infomercials, publications, we need to do our job on our end. Now that this is passed, and again, I support it, great idea, we're moving forward. But we do need to do some education. We need to do some instruction on helping people understand what just happened and how it works. And we need to look at the resources available to us, whether it's our television, our infomercials, our communications, our blasts, however we can get it out, we need to do that. And that's something we should start on tomorrow. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn, Council President.
No, we can't adjourn yet. we still have oral petition and remarks. We got a motion to, now we open the public portion of this meeting to oral petitions and remarks. It's open to the public now. Excuse me?
Esther Barkin.
Esther Barkin.
Hi, I just wanted to stress that the education is very important given what happened with the water and sewer utility issue. But I think along with being able to opt out, that you stress all the benefits that this program will provide, because in talking to people, you know, sometimes their first reaction is, I don't want to make any change, because they don't really understand what it will do. And hopefully the contract that you will get with the company will provide better rates than what people are paying now, and in addition get more renewable energy. So and the other thing is they'll still be dealing with PSE&G for their service and for everything else. They won't notice a difference. I've had a third party provider for several years. It's just a little thing on my bill. I mean, I deal with PSE&G, so I think that when you do your public information campaign, include all the benefits that we hope we will provide to the residents. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it. Move to close the public portion.
Wait, no.
Second.
No, wait a minute. No, John Shue. Sorry.
No, he dropped his.
No, he dropped. All right.
Motion to close the public portion.
Second.
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye. Motion to adjourn.
Yeah, motion.
Second.
Motion. All right.
Second.
All in favor? Out.
Aye.
Have a good
All right,
evening.
good night, everybody. That was the best meeting we ever had.
Good night.
Take care.
Right.
Good night.